your shit and learn to manage your stress. Because I taped over my emotional gauges. I learned to do it as a boy, to suck it up, to bury it, so that I could sacrifice, right? And then I was surprised when the check engine light was flashing as I'm driving to take my wife to this baseball game, not in my car, but in my body. And the metaphorical car, my body was shaking, quite literally at the edge of panic. I don't want you to end up like that. What's good, fatherhood? What warning signs in your life have you been overriding instead of addressing? Because, well, that's what most high-functioning men do. We don't fall apart. We push through. We override the fatigue, the irritability, the anxiety, the distance in our marriage, the loss of joy. And we tell ourselves it's just discipline. We call it grit. We wear it like a badge of honor. But what we're really doing is just taping over the gauges and acting surprised when our engine starts to break down. This is not an episode about weakness, gentlemen. It's about what happens when a man ignores the signals long enough that life stops whispering and starts screaming. Welcome, guys. Again, this is Uncommon, the Dad Work podcast, where I am here to share the most powerful insights, wisdom, tools, but actual practices to help you show up as the cycle-breaking, legacy-making, transitional character in your family line. That's right, the guy who recognizes the cycles, but not just recognizes them, who puts in the work to break them and write a new story and a new legacy for his wife, his children, his line, once and for all, because that is our real responsibility. Me, though, I'm not just here because I have read books and I want to give you stuff that I read in books. I lived this. I'm still living this. We're all always going through our hero's journey. We're all always going through our cycles, recognizing new things for us to step up and to break. But me, skipping through my childhood, that's a different podcast episode. I got out of college, went to school to teach high school history. I don't know if you knew that. I could be teaching history and government and social studies right now. I'd love to be teaching government. I love it. I'm not doing that. I'm here because, well, it's hard to get a teaching job in the state of Illinois, one of the top teaching college states in the country. Right out of college, I applied to 30 plus open positions, even in the schools that I student taught at. Jefferson High School in Rockford, Illinois. I ended up working at a gas station. I also loved, because I was fit, I loved teaching people how to get healthy. And so out of college, I got a training job. A personal training job. And I loved it because the people that were coming to me, they really wanted to get healthy. So I had people that were eager to do the things that I asked them to do so that they could get the result that they asked for. And I worked my ass off because, well, I had a good work ethic from my dad and my stepfather. And I was making $10,000 for the company a month, every single month. I built, by month 10, I was making $10K a month for that company. They loved it. I met a girl, and even though I had sworn off marriage because I had seen divorce in my family, my parents got divorced, my mom got double divorced, I swore I would never want to get married and put somebody else through that. And, marriage is just in this antiquated thing. It doesn't actually work for people. But I met this girl, and I started to feel a little bit differently. And at that same time, I took a management role because my bosses were like, you work really hard, you perform well, people like you. We think that you do well in management. And I said, well, yeah, that would be really cool. I'd like that. And because I watched my dad be vice president for commercial lending at a bank. And I was like, well, this is kind of what you do, right? You climb the ladder, you build a reputation, you make money, you get a nameplate, your boss, that's what you do. So I did that. This girl, though, there was something different about her. As I was getting these offers of jobs and climbing that ladder, it's like, I need to get serious about this one. We moved in together really soon after we started dating, like uncomfortably soon. And we got engaged about a year into dating. That was fast for somebody who thought they'd never get married. Climbing that ladder, can making more money. We lived the dream, working 50+ hour work weeks. We both get up and get off to work by 5:30, 6 a.m. to open her the restaurant, to me, for me to open the club. Wasn't to open the club though, because it was 24-hour fitness club. So I'd be one of the first ones there to open the shift in the morning, taking 5, 6 a.m. Work our butts off all day, and then get home at the end of the day, 8, 9 p.m. because, we both juggled. I worked one job, but I worked throughout the entire day. She worked multiple jobs. We'd get home 8, 9 p.m. and get some kind of food in us, maybe a glass of wine, pass out on the couch watching, what was it? It was Jimmy Fallon. Just to do it again the next day and be exhausted because we fell asleep on the couch. We'd have to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bed. Just two ships passing in the night. Two of us just connecting on weekends. If you look from the outside, we were living the dream. Like, we had it. We were making great money in our 20s. We were engaged, about to get married on a beach. I bought our $12,000 engagement ring, which is absolutely ludicrous. That's insane that I would spend that much money on this kind of thing. But I did it. We both had titles, positions of authority. I got this sexy Volkswagen CC to keep up with my coworkers who were driving Audis. And I was like, well, I guess this is just what you do. I was ripped. I was CrossFit fit, probably around like 12% body fat any given day. We were living the dream, right? Saving money to buy a house, about to get married. We had a little dog. On the outside, like, we had it right. We were doing all the things. Until one moment on the way to a baseball game. I got out of work early. I didn't just leave. I got permission from my bigwig boss to leave early, 2:30, take my wife to a baseball game for her birthday. That's what we did. Her dad always used to take her to White Sox games. And White Sox are better than the Cubs, so if you're a Cubs fan, I'm kidding. Maybe I still like you. But I'm taking her to a baseball game Friday night. We're going to see fireworks. It's going to be awesome. Driving down 94, going to pick her up from the train station in Chicago, and we're going to pop over to Comiskey Park. It's Comiskey, whatever they call it now. It doesn't matter. It's still Comiskey. I'm driving, and, I know what it feels like to be in the middle of a CrossFit WOD, to be gasping for air, to feel like I'm at the edge, heart pounding. I'm driving my car, and I'm feeling that way on the way to this baseball game. And this is weird. My fingernails dug under the steering wheel because it felt relieving to dig my fingernails into the steering wheel. I didn't know it was a weird thing to do. Teeth clenched, muscles are tight, my heart is like pounding out of my chest like I just seen Jessica Rabbit, which, if you're a 90s kid, maybe she was your first crush too. And I realized that this isn't normal. I'm driving to take my wife to a baseball game, which should be a fun moment, and I'm at the edge of panic. Like, I'm struggling to catch my breath. My heart is pounding. I feel like I'm in the middle of a CrossFit WOD. I couldn't hide the shit anymore, the shit that I was holding on the inside. Yes, I'm living the dream here. I've got everything. I'm making good money. I've got a title. I've got a sexy car, a hot wife. We're getting married. I'm fit. My parents look at me. They're like, wow, he's doing a good thing. But no, because I was an emotional wreck. I couldn't hide that I was absolutely miserable anymore. I was crippled with anxiety. I was suppressing it with everything underneath the sun. Excessive amounts of caffeine was really, really fashionable in the fitness industry. And here in the men's coaching space, it's a really fashionable thing. But it's just another cope. Alcohol, most nights, especially on the weekends, when eventually we would be together and we'd go out binge drinking because it was the way that we would connect. Porn, 1, 2, 3, up to 5 times a day. Most guys, to deal with stress or to feel chosen, doom scrolling on my phone, hope scrolling, wisdom scrolling, whatever it was, I was scrolling on my phone when I should have been doing other things and actually making the most out of life. But instead, I was allowing that life to be sucked out of me and into my phone. Hardcore workouts, I'm CrossFit fit. I'm doing alpha showdown training at Lifetime, beating myself to oblivion. It's another way of coping. Working more, working 30, yeah, that's normal. 40, yeah, that's normal. 50, sometimes 60 hours a week. And bosses are like, yeah, well, your contemporaries at this other club are working 10 more hours than you. You think you could do that? They're getting great results. I couldn't hide that I had excessively, dangerously high blood pressure for somebody in their 20s. I couldn't hide that. Couldn't hide that I was anxious, that I hated my job because my job has ceased to be about helping people, personal training, nutrition coaching, weight loss coaching, helping people get their blood work to optimal levels and have their really live their best lives. I couldn't hide that I hated that my job wasn't about that. It was about making $300,000 for the fitness, the training department. Instead, I couldn't hide that I hated that. Couldn't hide the physical problems. I couldn't hide the mental emotional problems anymore because now it's coming out in the middle of me driving to take my wife to a baseball game. I couldn't hide that my wife and I were more distant and disconnected than ever, even though on paper it looked like we were living it up. We have this beautiful destination beach wedding, which was fun, but we see each other for a few hours in the weekend and we just binge drink. And then when we get home at the end of every day and we're so exhausted that we veg out, we pass out on the couch. I get home on my Fridays and she makes me dinner, a beautiful homemade dinner in lingerie. And I'm too fucking tired to do anything about it. So we pass out on the couch. I couldn't hide it anymore. And in this moment, driving my car, I don't know what happened. I'm not special. I'm not any different than you. But instead of just like coping more with counterfeit comforts, I said, fuck it. And I went all in to change it. I was a fitness guy, and back in the day, it was Ben Greenfield Fitness Podcast, and I had listened to him, and I think he interviewed Wim Hof, and I think I was listening to Tim Ferriss, because Tim Ferriss was big at the time, and he had interviewed Andy from Headspace, so I had learned about breathwork. Wow, Wim Hof can actually mitigate the effects of being injected with E. coli through breathwork. He can really control his own immune system. He can train his vascular system. This can help with blood pressure. Andy, same thing through meditation. You can lower his blood pressure, can get control over the mental and emotional challenges that most people and most men and husbands and fathers are facing. Well, shit. I watched my grandfather get sick, and when he passed away, he had 20 plus medications on his bedside table, struggled with blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, and I'm going down the same route right now. I said, fuck it, I'm not going to go that route. I'm also not going to go the standard medical system route. I'm going to fix this myself. I'm going to take ownership for how I'm living that's out of alignment with my physiology, and I'm going to fix that. And so I started to do breath work. I started to do cold therapy. I started to meditate. In addition to working out and eating well, I started to eat a little bit better. I stopped binging on Girl Scout cookies and Portillo's after eating keto all week and calling it carb backloading and carb cycling. I stopped doing that. And I started to feel more calm. I started to feel better. I wasn't able to regulate my own stress. I was not able to regulate my own emotions. And so they hijacked my life through these copes, through these counterfeit comforts that made me numb out to all the problems that I was having, that made me think, oh, everything's okay, and just sweep it under the rug. Instead of getting hijacked, I was able to see, oh, you know what? This is off. I've been climbing this ladder with my job, but maybe the ladder I'm climbing isn't against the wall that I want to be on, and I want to be over there. I want to have a deeper, more powerful, more passionate, more playful, more deeply connected, loving relationship with my wife than the disconnected one, than the one of distance that I have right now. I actually don't like all this shenanigans in personal training, nutrition coaching, lifestyle coaching, management. I don't like this stuff. It feels inauthentic to me. I realized I was going up a ladder that I didn't want to be on. And what happened? Well, I got bandwidth back in my brain when we're under stress all the time, when we're under pressure. And as men, we're trained to just tape over that stress, tape over that pressure, and just keep going because we have to put it on the line. We have to sacrifice, right? We're taught this as boys with sports. Like, suck it up, go out on the field. Yeah, you might get hurt, but, did the team win? And there are times where this is appropriate. There are battlefield situations where this is really important for us. But in day-to-day life, especially when it's your family, this is a massive problem. Because what you end up giving your family if you're living that life of suppression, emotional suppression, stress suppression, and you're just trying to use all the copes to keep it under wraps, to keep it buried, is we end up just giving them the shell of ourselves. We're living in emotional hijack. We're living in autopilot mode. We're literally this zombie walking around. We're not the actual man that we should be for them. They don't actually get us. They don't get our essence. They get the leftovers. And so when we start to do these practices, when I started to do this breathwork, this meditation, my nervous system calms down. I got out of sympathetic dominance that's being locked in fight or flight mode. I got back to center, coherence. That's balance between sympathetic nervous system activation and parasympathetic nervous system activation. That's rest and relaxation versus fight or flight. When you're under stress, you lose 80% of the blood flow to the thinking areas of your brain, your prefrontal cortex, making you effectively stupid. It literally makes us dumb. We can't think anymore. We just end up programs, patterns, reactions, the plays that we've always run. Survival. Not thriving, not connection, not making the right choice, but making the one that's going to reduce pain and increase pleasure right now. And my wife didn't deserve that, nor did the little ones that were eventually going to be pitter-pattering up and down our hallways. I was in no way fit to serve myself, to serve my wife, to serve the little ones that were about to come around, until I started to put in the work and started to realize, now that I got my brain power back, I got blood flow back to my prefrontal cortex because I'm sitting the fuck down and turning inward instead of running away from my thoughts, just sitting with them. Wow, that's interesting. Maybe there's something to that, or maybe that's just an impulsive thought. What is that? That's not me. That's a thought. Well, in my heart, in my centeredness, what do I want? What do I think? How do I want to show up? What is the relationship I want to have with my wife versus what I have now versus the story about what I'm supposed to have? Like, that's just how life is. That's normal in relationship for you guys to grow apart, to disconnect. I started to be able to see through the fog for the first time, and I started to make changes, climbing down the ladder, really prioritizing my mental, my emotional health so that I could prioritize living a life that I was on fire for, one that brought me closer to my wife instead of just driving me further away or just accepting and resigning myself to a life of, well, being disconnected from my wife and going to the man cave when I go. Climbed down the ladder. I started having the people that I used to work alongside with, or the people that were my bosses, they started to come to me for help with this stuff, the mental, the emotional stuff, the stuff that's ick. We try to avoid it. I'm not special, guys. I'm not different. I've lived the same life that many of you are living. The stress, the anxiety that you bury, the copes that you use in order to numb out to that are really just leaving you as this shell instead of giving all of yourself to your wife and your kids and being able to feel all of your wife and your kids. Instead, it's like we're partly there. We're never entirely there. Our head is somewhere else. Or we end up impulsive. We overreact to our kids being exuberant, being kids. We overreact to the tone of our wife's voice, or that she criticized us for the way that we did something because, yeah, I forgot to take my shoes off. Or it's not that I forgot. I was just so in autopilot. I just didn't do it. I'm not telling you that you need to quit your job like I did to be here with you. I am telling you that you need to get a handle on your shit and learn to manage your stress. Because I taped over my emotional gauges. I learned to do it as a boy, to suck it up, to bury it, so that I could sacrifice, right? And then I was surprised when the check engine light was flashing as I'm driving to take my wife to this baseball game, not in my car, but in my body. And the metaphorical car, my body was shaking, quite literally at the edge of panic. I don't want you to end up like that. So I want you to maintenance yourself, your vehicle here right now. I want you to maintenance yourself and keep doing it so you don't end up with the same problems that I did. Anxiety, panic, dangerously high blood pressure, dangerous disconnection and distance between you and your wife and you and your kids, and reactivity and escapism in your phone and everything else, so that you don't actually get to enjoy the time that you have with them because you're not entirely here. It's a whole different level of absent dads, guys. Nowadays, millennials, we spend 3 times more time with our families and our children than any generation in history, and yet over 60% of us feel like we're not doing enough. It's not that we're not there. It's not that we are not with our kids enough. But mentally and emotionally, we are not. We are not present. It's a whole different level of absent dad. So I want you to start maintaining this vehicle now, before you run into the problems that I did. Or maybe you're already there and you're like, yeah, I've been there. I want you to maintenance the vehicle and remedy these things before you land in the hospital, like men that I've worked with who texted me from the hospital saying, hey man, I just had a heart attack. I need to change things. Can you help me? Fuck. I don't want you to end up there. I don't want you to end up there. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for your wife. I don't want that for your kids. Or men who are texting me that I used to work with, that I've been friends with, that are like, hey, my marriage is falling apart and I am not good right now and I need somebody to talk to. Can you help me? Or men who are who rush themselves to the hospital in the middle of the night because they're like, I think I'm having a heart attack. And they're there and the nurses tell them this is actually panic right now, because you've been burying it for so long. I don't want you to end up like that. But that's where so many men go, because we were trained to just bury it, to suppress it all. And in this world of so much technology, so much stimulation, so many dopamine fixes and hits that help us numb out to all of it, taping over our emotional gauges, it's so easy to be there. And we cannot just white knuckle it through life anymore. That may have worked 20 years ago. We can't neglect our mental, emotional health. We can't neglect building the actual skills, because that's what all of this is, of mental and emotional grit. That means to be the rock that the waves of life can crash over without being shaken. Developing the skills of real presence in this world that exists to extract our attention. Developing the skills of actual patience, empathy, being able to connect with people in front of us, no matter the chaos of life. It's no longer a luxury. It's no longer an option to put in this work. It's meditation, breathwork, emotional grit training, emotional regulation training. We have to do it. Otherwise, we're just going to give our family the shell of ourselves. We're just going to give our family the leftovers. We're just going to walk around the opposite of sharp, which is dull, which is soft. And that's what our wife and our kids are going to get. Your wife shouldn't stay with that guy. Your kids shouldn't look up to that guy. They're going to look for somebody else, and God hopes that he's a good role model. But you know what you can do is you can stop accepting the same old stories and falling into the same old programs and narratives that you were given growing up. You can stop the cycle of emotional suppression and just burying it and actually deal with it. Learn how to become a grounded force. What is grounding? An electrical system. It literally takes the excess energy and dissipates it into the earth. That is our work as men, as husbands and fathers. That is masculine, not suppression, but grounding, dissipation. So what gives? Well, imagine you're going to the coffee shop. I just finished this beautiful chai here, and they make bulletproof coffee, and they make it with grass-fed organic ingredients. Not that crap that you get at Starbucks, and you walk out, and you're walking to your car. It's 15 degrees out Fahrenheit. It's cold. And you turn the corner, and there's a fucking bear there. And you're like, wow, I didn't really expect there to be a bear. In a split second, your body's going to release epinephrine and norepinephrine because you're standing not just up against a bear, but against Arctodus simens, the peak apex predator of the last ice age. This is what our ancestors used to wake up and make sure wasn't around the camp. It's a bear that runs 40 miles an hour, 1.5 tons. Your stress response is designed for this guy. Epinephrine, norepinephrine, or adrenaline, noradrenaline, secreted immediately. Heart rate elevates. Blood pressure elevates. Endorphins release to blunt pain, because if he gets a hold of you, that's going to suck. Your brain goes into high beta brainwaves, the signature brainwave of stress and overthinking. Well, why is that? Because, well, if you're standing here with this bear, I'm immediately looking for ways to get away from this, or if I have to fight him, what am I going to fight him with? There's something here I can grab. Okay. I'm going to jump over that car, go under that one there. That guy's got his door open. I'm going to get into that car right there. All of this stuff is happening in a split second. Heart rate, boom, not just beating fast, but hard. Bam, 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 because you're about to run for your life or fight for your life. Glucose released into the bloodstream for high-intensity jet fuel energy. Wound repair shut down because it's not important right now. Digestion shut down because digesting your breakfast not important right now. Sexy time hormones, testosterone shut down because it's not important right now. Propagating the species. You need to fight or run and get away. But in reality, that's actually just the mascot for the local pancake place. Still, your heart rate's elevated. Still that blood pressure elevated. Still ready to fight or run. We're not actually fighting bears nowadays. Instead, we're fighting the emails coming into our inbox, the unmarked letters in our mailbox, that email from our boss, that text, that cryptic text with no context from our wife. It's like, oh, maybe she's mad at me. We're fighting, trying to protect our little families, to provide for them more than anything else. Money would be so much easier just to go out and hunt and gather. But instead, we got to work. We got to bring home money. We got to put in all these hours. Not to mention being sleep deprived and overstimulated while trying to be a present father, while trying to keep our relationship together. We're getting blasted nonstop by stress. Dumb shit. Living in a chronic stress response. No wonder why we have digestive problems. We have inflammation in our gut, which is another stressor on the nervous system. No wonder we have erectile dysfunction issues. We have low testosterone as an epidemic among men. And when that's happening, well, that makes us more moody, makes us more irritable, makes us more bitchy, makes us more soft. And of course, that's going to wreck our relationship with our wife and our kids. And it's wrecking our lives. Chronic stress, inability to manage stress is such a massive issue. 14 out of the 15 leading causes of death, men, and 14 out of the 15 leading causes of death. We lead over women. 150 workplace accidents happen every single day, 95% of which are men. When you're under stress, you lose your coordination. You lose critical thinking skills. You make stupid mistakes. You end up in accidents. 3/4 of suicides are men. You'd never know it, though, because like me, we're suppressing it. We're burying it underneath the surface. To everyone else, it looks like we're rocking it. Half of all marriages end in divorce, even though on the outside, like me, it looks like you're living the dream. You have everything. Beautiful beach wedding. You guys are going on beach vacation. It's got this beautiful $12,000 engagement ring. You guys are working hard. You're making good money. Oh, and you guys go out to these fancy dates on the weekends. I want that. Meanwhile, we're dealing with this chronic stress underneath the surface. We're using everything to cope with it, to numb out to it so we don't have to deal with it. The World Health Organization came out prior to COVID and said that stress, not anything else but stress, was the epidemic of the 21st century. And the CDC, and I may have reversed these, it might have been the CDC that said the first one, the WHO the second one, doesn't matter. 49% of deaths and 61% of the global disease burden, that's the money spent around the world on disease, comes from having a poor lifestyle, and that means being inactive, eating like crap, drinking, smoking, etc. All of which are copes and avoidance and numbing techniques to avoid the discomfort, the mental and emotional discomfort that we are in. All of this stuff is stress-induced or exacerbated. And no one has given you the tools for how to actually deal with your stress. You have only been taught how to bury it. And when you do that, Journal of the American Medical Association, I think this is 2008, has said that stress is the number one contributor to the development and progress of diseases and is as bad for your health as chronic smoking. Your health, your heart, your blood pressure, all of it, as chronic smoking. We can no longer just wing it, just bury it, just suppress it. So what do we need to do? Well, one, what is stress? Stress, when it comes down to it, is emotional unease, which means it's emotion, it's feelings. Ooh, something icky, something that most of us as guys don't want to deal with. You can look at somebody's, I think it's an EEG, you can look at somebody's heart rhythm. You can look at it and tell whether they're experiencing positive or negative emotions. It's actually really easy once you start to look at it. Because we can tell when someone's heart rhythm is in coherence, that's synchronization, or incoherence, being unsynchronized. You know what it feels like to be incoherent if you've ever had too much alcohol and you start to slur your words and say stupid stuff and you start to wobble. You start to feel like, oh, I'm a sailor on deck. I have no balance. That's incoherence. In your nervous system, incoherence is when there's no predictability between sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system, when you are in fight or flight in a situation that doesn't make sense for it. Like when you walk around the corner and there's a bear mask out there and you're like, I'm going to fight him. That's incoherence. What is the signature experience of incoherence, guys? Listen, it's anxiety. It's negative emotion. If you're feeling those things consistently, you are in nervous system incoherence. And your family feels that. And you, because you've been trained to do this, are going to cope and try and bury that so that you don't have to feel it because you don't have the tools for it. And because of that, incoherence and negative emotions are draining of our energy, of our vital life force energy. They literally sap us. And we end up walking into our house at the end of the day as this shell of a man, giving them leftovers when really it's probably not the demands of your life. It's probably your inability, lack of skill, or unwillingness to actually deal with the negative emotions that are there. So what do we do instead? What do we need to do if we want to break the cycles of the cope, the programs, the patterns, the same cycles, the same things that we keep doing over and over and over that we know are bad for us, that are bad for our relationship with our wife, with our kids, that are bad in the course of our life? We have to make changes. And if we want to actually break those patterns, first, we have to build coherence in our nervous system. That's synchronization of all systems. That's balance between the fight or flight response and the rest and relaxation response. How do we do this? Well, one, we need to measure it. We can measure it through heart rate variability. If you have an Oura Ring or an Apple Watch or a Whoop or whatever, you can measure that every single day. Your heart rate variability is your stress bucket. It's the bucket of how much stress you can hold. It's how resilient you are. We call that resilience capacity. The bigger your HRV, the more stress you can handle. I call that emotional grit. The more that you can take, more emotional endurance you have, the more that you can be the unshakable rock. And I mean like bamboo that can be bent sideways by hurricane force winds. And then when those winds stop, they can come right back upright without being broken. Not like cold, brittle steel or a dry noodle when placed under pressure. And this is raw discipline without emotional grit. It snaps. And then you snap on your family, you snap on your wife, or you fall back into your copes again. Porn, doom scrolling, hope scrolling, not going to the gym, alcohol, caffeine, whatever it is. We got to do things that amplify that heart rate variability, that build that coherence, that centeredness in our nervous system every single day. In the gym, we have a saying, specific adaptations to impose demands. If you want to get stronger at squatting, you have to squat consistently. Your body will get stronger when you do that. We have to do things that amplify and build coherence, that centeredness in the nervous system, that build that resilience capacity. These are things, guys, like breathwork and meditation and yoga and emotional freedom technique. This is actual tapping points that help to down-regulate the amygdala, the fear and stress center in the body, so that you can take a breath and get that blood flow back into your prefrontal cortex and get back into your power, which is your locus of control. So you can be in control, not being emotionally hijacked by your smaller self, but instead align yourself with the version of you that you know that you can be for yourself and your wife and your kids. And you can use these techniques, this breathwork, this meditation, this EFT, this Qigong, this yoga, not just to amplify coherence in the heart and the nervous system like I'm talking about, but to get coherence in your brain again. And get out of the brainwaves of high beta, stress and survival, and down into the brainwaves of connection and empathy. You can actually fire up more alpha through these techniques. As alpha brainwaves, this is a brainwave of flow, and get into theta, which is the brainwave of deep connection and empathy to feel into. If you want to be more connected with your wife, it's not just like, oh, we need to have more dates and stuff like that. It's, I need to do the work to elicit the brainwave necessary so that I can actually connect with her and feel into what's going on with her. Instead of just going through the motions, having the same conversations, and she's like, I feel like you're not with me. This is a trained skill, guys. If you actually take this seriously, you start training this stuff, you will be more connected to your wife. You will feel into what's happening with her. She will feel you more without having to implement all these stupid therapy techniques. You go from living life on autopilot to living life on purpose, in your power, in your locus of control, intentionally, and showing up as the man, the husband, and the father that they need you to be, and the one that you are proud of, the one that you know you can be. You start to break cycles rather than unconsciously propagating them or beating yourself up about falling into them over and over and over and over and over and over again. Meditation, breathwork, this extra stuff, quote unquote, is no longer a luxury. You have to do it. To train that nervous system coherence, to break the cycles of coping, playing small. You can't bury your shit anymore. You need to learn how to deal with it in a masculine way. You have to do this work to generate the actual brainwaves that allow you to connect to and be present with and feel into and make moments and memories with your wife and your kids, because that is what they need from you. I didn't break down, guys, because I was lazy. I broke down because I was effective. I was effective at burying it. I worked hard. I climbed the ladder. I made money. I kept showing up. And all the while, I was overriding every internal signal telling me that something was wrong. Anxiety, push through it. Emotional pain, suppress it. Distance with my wife, deal with it later. More coffee, more alcohol, more porn, more doom scrolling, more looking at titty accounts on Instagram, more work, harder workouts. I didn't lack discipline. I lacked grit. I taped over the gauges as every man is taught to do. And then I was shocked when the check engine light came on as I was driving to take her on that date. And the whole system started shaking in that moment of panic. And here's what I want you to hear clearly. If you don't start addressing the warning signs, life will do it for you. Fate leads he who follows and drags he who resists. It might be your health. It might be your marriage, a panic attack you can't hide, a hospital room you didn't plan on seeing. I've watched it happen to men who thought they were fine. This is why the work matters. Not because it's trendy, not because it's spiritual, not because it's what a modern man would do, but because breathwork and meditation, synchronized movement like yoga, even strength training, if you do it right, actually releasing, grounding our emotions rather than suppressing them. They give you your forebrain back. They give you your power back. They restore coherence. They restore connection. They restore life. They give you the bandwidth to actually enjoy it again, to feel, to think, to connect, to lead, to love. They help you move out of survival and back into relationship so that you and your wife and your kids may thrive. So I'm going to leave you with this. No fixing, no explaining, no defending. What warning signs in your life have you been overriding instead of addressing with check engine lights? What would change if you stopped pretending they weren't there and you just started to maintenance them? Real strength isn't how much pressure you can hold. It's whether you're willing to listen before something breaks. We all have a load to bear, gentlemen. It's about how you carry it. If you just ignore it, it's going to crush you. But if you learn how to carry it the right way, you can do anything. That's all that I got for you today. Shoot me a DM with those questions answered, or not with those questions, but with your responses to those. We'll talk. Thanks for being here. Have an uncommon day. Peace.